Shall we discuss a story today? Yes, the next lesson from your literature textbook is a wonderful story about a Polish girl named Wanda Petronski. The name of the story is 100 Dresses, written by Eleanor Estes. Before we move on to the lesson, let us know more about the writer Eleanor Estes.
Eleanor Estes, or Eleanor Estes' full name, Eleanor Ruth Rosenfeld. She was born on May 9, 1906 in America, and she died on July 15, 1988. She was an American children's author and a children's librarian. Her notable works are Ginger Pie, The 100 Dresses, The Moffat Series, etc. Her book, Ginger Pie, won the Newbery Medal. Eleanor based the story 100 Dresses on her real-life experience as the girl who received Peggy's hand-me-down dresses. She felt so guilty for not having defended the Wanda character in real life that she wrote the story as both an exercise to assuage her guilt and to encourage others to stand up against bullies. Let's watch the animation and the explanation followed by it.
Hi, I am Eleanor Estes, the author of the story 100 Dresses. Now I am going to narrate the same story to you. Today, Monday, Wanda Petronski was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Usually Wanda sat in the seat next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat, the corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. Wanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. And nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in that seat unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Wanda Petronski once she sat in the corner of the room. The time when they thought about Wanda was outside of school hours, at noontime when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3, or even more, would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. Then, sometimes, they waited for Wanda to have fun with her.
The story revolves around a Polish girl named Wanda Petronski and her classmates Peggy and Madeline. The plot of the story starts on one Monday. Even Peggy and Madeline didn't notice the absence of Wanda Petronski in the class. Wanda Petronski is a very silent and a shy girl who usually sat at the corner of the classroom where the not academically brilliant as well as noisy guys sat. She sat there not because she was also a naughty girl. She was a very silent girl and nobody never noticed her in the class, and she was not even found laughing. Since she was not like the other boys, they couldn't understand why she sat at the corner of the classroom. They made some guesses like it is because she came from Boggins Heights and her shoes were dirty because of mud. Peggy and Maddie were the ones who started making fun of Wanda Petronski. They didn't notice her during the class time, but before the class as well as when the class is over, when they were in groups, they will think of Wanda Petronski. And sometimes they will wait till Wanda comes so that they could make fun of her Although they were late to school, that was not a problem for them.
The next day, Tuesday, Wanda was not in school either. And nobody noticed her absence again. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat down front with other children who got good marks and who didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Wanda wasn't there. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes and her hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absence was because Wanda had made them late to school. They had waited and waited for Wanda to have some fun with her and she just hadn't come. They often waited for Wanda Petronski to have fun with her. Wanda Petronski. Most of the children in room 13 didn't have names like that. They had names easy to say, like Thomas, Smith or Alan. There was one boy named Bounce, Willie Bounce, and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petronski was.
The next day, Tuesday also, nobody noticed the absence of Wanda Petronski. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie noticed her absence because they were late to school since they were waiting for Wanda so that they could make fun of her. Peggy was the most popular girl of the school. She had good and tidy clothes and she sat with the toppers of the class. The fact is that nobody was curious to know why Wanda was absent for these days. All they cared was they couldn't make fun of her. Wanda Petronski is a Polish girl who emigrated to America. Her name, Wanda Petronski. The fellow students of the class felt her name to be strange as they all had simple and very familiar names, American names. Except one boy called William Bounce. So they thought that his name is a little bit funny, but something lesser than Petronski. They thought that the name Wanda Petronski is a long one and an unfamiliar name.
Wanda didn't have any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that didn't hang right. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. She didn't have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. Sometimes, they surrounded her in the schoolyard as she stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the worn hard ground.
Wanda Petronski was always found wearing a faded blue colored dress which didn't fit her properly. It was clean, but it was unironed. That shows that she was from a poor family who couldn't afford a lot of dresses. A lot of girls came to talk to her, but she had no friends. They all came to talk to her so that they could find something to make fun of her. Whenever she was watching students, little kids playing on the ground, they surrounded her with lots of questions.
Wanda, tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet?
100. Yeah, 100 all lined up.
What are they like? All silk, I bet.
Yeah, all silk, all colors.
Velvet too.
Yeah, velvet too. 100 dresses, all lined up in my closet. Then they'd let her go. And then before she'd gone very far, they couldn't help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter.
A 100 dresses. Obviously, the only dress Wanda had was the blue one she wore every day. So why did she say she had 100? What a story. How many shoes did you say you had?
60 pairs, all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this.
All alike. Oh no, every pair is different. All colors, all lined up.
With no intention of hurting her, Peggy used to ask her how many dresses that Wanda has in a very polite and respectful tone. At that time, Wanda told that she possessed 100 dresses. That made Peggy angry. She was asking Maddie why Wanda is making a story by telling that she possessed 100 dresses. Nobody could believe it. Why? Because she came, all the day she came in a faded blue dress. And then she says that she had 100 dresses. So while all the girls screamed, the little girls who were playing there, they stopped their play and then they listened to them. Wanda very affirmatively told that the dresses that she had were made of velvet as well as silk. Sadly, when Wanda left, they all laughed at her.
Peggy, who had thought up this game, and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. Finally, Wanda would move up the street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitching her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had, finishing the walk to school alone. Peggy was not really cruel. She protected small children from bullies. And she cried for hours if she saw an animal mistreated.
Don't you think that is a cruel way to treat Wanda?
Cruel. Why did the girl say she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that that was a lie. Why did she want to lie? And she wasn't just an ordinary person, else why did she have a name like that?
Anyway, they never made her cry.
Peggy and Maddie were the last ones to leave the school while Wanda would go with her dull eyes and in a strange way. Peggy is not the same girl that we were discussing till now. She is a different girl. She several times saved small kids from being teased by other students. And she is a girl who couldn't tolerate the animals being treated badly. Then why she is treating Wanda like this? When someone asks this question, she says that it is only because Wanda lies that she had got 100 dresses. And she was not interested with her name also. She is also an ordinary girl. Then why should she be given that particular name? Anyway, although they teased her, they never made her cry.
As for Maddie, this business of asking Wanda every day how many dresses and how many hats and how many this and that she had was bothering her. Maddie was poor herself. She usually wore somebody's hand-me-down clothes. Thank goodness, she didn't live up on Boggins Heights or have a funny name. Sometimes, when Peggy was asking Wanda those questions in that mocking polite voice, Maddie felt embarrassed and studied the marbles in the palm of her hand, rolling them around and saying nothing herself. Not that she felt sorry for Wanda, exactly. She would never have paid any attention to Wanda if Peggy hadn't invented the dresses game. But suppose Peggy and all the others started in on her next. She wasn't as poor as Wanda, perhaps, but she was poor. Of course she would have more sense than to say she had 100 dresses. Still she would not like for them to begin on her. She wished Peggy would stop teasing Wanda Petronski.
Maddie was not interested in teasing Wanda by asking her the number of dresses and the accessories she possessed. It was not because she cared about her, but because she was also from a poor family. She wore dresses that were given by someone else. She was not as poor as Wanda, and she was not from Boggins Heights, and she was not having a weird name also. Then also she felt ashamed whenever Wanda was teased. And when Peggy asks Wanda those questions, Madeline will be playing with the marbles silently as if she was not interested. It is not because she cared about her, but only because she thought that it will be, that means in that position next time she will be there. If that game, that dress game was not invented, she would never have thought about Wanda Petronski. Now she is having a fear that she will be caught and she will be teased by the other girls. And now she wished that Peggy would not tease Wanda.
Today, even though they had been late to school, Maddie was glad she had not had to make fun of Wanda. She worked her arithmetic problems absent-mindedly.
Eight times 8, let's see.
She wished she had the nerve to write Peggy a note because she knew she never would have the courage to speak right out to Peggy, to say, "Hey Peg, let's stop asking Wanda how many dresses she has." When she finished her arithmetic, she did start a note to Peggy. Suddenly she paused and shuddered. She pictured herself in the schoolyard, a new target for Peggy and the girls. Peggy might ask her where she got the dress that she had on, and Maddie would have to say it was one of Peggy's old ones that Maddie's mother had tried to disguise with new trimmings so no one in room 13 would recognize it.
If only Peggy would decide of her own accord to stop having fun with Wanda. Oh, well. What difference did it make? I am Peggy's best friend, and Peggy is the best liked girl in the whole room. Peggy could not possibly do anything that is really wrong.
It was Wednesday and Wanda was absent that day. Peggy and Maddie were late to school since they were waiting for Wanda, but Maddie was a little bit happy since they didn't get a chance to make fun of her. During class hours also, she was not able to concentrate properly. She was just thinking to write a letter to Peggy asking her not to tease Wanda. She thought that she would write it after finishing arithmetic. While she started writing that note, some imaginations came to her mind. She thought that she was actually giving a new target for Peggy and other girls to tease. Then she thought that the next question will be to her. From where did you get the dress? Actually, the dress that Maddie was wearing at that time was Peggy's. Her mother had used some new laces as well as ribbons so that nobody could understand or identify it. She wanted Peggy to stop teasing Wanda by her own. All on a sudden, she made a gesture by touching her hair as if to show that she wanted all her thoughts to go away from her brain. Then she talked herself. Peggy is the most liked girl in the class and she is a friend. She will not make any mistakes or she won't be wrong. And then she tore the paper and threw it away.
As for Wanda, she was just some girl who lived up on Boggins Heights and stood alone in the schoolyard. She scarcely ever said anything to anybody. The only time she talked was in the schoolyard about her 100 dresses. Maddie remembered her telling about one of her dresses, pale blue with colored trimmings. And she remembered another that was brilliant jungle green with a red sash.
You'd look like a Christmas tree in that.
Thinking about Wanda and her 100 dresses all lined up in the closet, Maddie began to wonder who was going to win the drawing and coloring contest. For girls, this contest consisted of designing dresses, and for boys, of designing motorboats.
Probably Peggy would win the girls' medal. Peggy drew better than anyone else in the room. She could copy a picture in a magazine or some film star's head so that we could almost tell who it was. Oh, Peggy will surely win. Well, tomorrow the teacher is going to announce the winners.
After removing all the thoughts that she had in her mind regarding how to confess Peggy, she thought of Wanda. She remembered Wanda talking about the number of dresses that she had, about the blue dress, the green dress with some laces and all. And she remembered girls teasing her by telling that she would look like a Christmas tree. While she was thinking of Wanda, she just thought of the drawing competition. So the boys were to draw motorboats and the girls were to design dresses. So she remembered that the very next day the result will be announced and it would be Peggy who is going to win because she is the best student of the class.
The next day it was drizzling. Maddie and Peggy hurried to school under Peggy's umbrella. Naturally, on a day like this, they didn't wait for Wanda Petronski on the corner of Oliver Street, the street that far, far away, under the railroad tracks and up the hill, led to Boggins Heights. Anyway, they weren't taking chances on being late today, because today was important.
Do you think Miss Mason will announce the winners today?
Oh, I hope so. The minute we get in, of course, you will win, Peg.
Hope so.
The minute they entered the classroom, they stopped short and gasped. There were drawings all over the room, on every ledge and windowsill, dazzling colors and brilliant, lavish designs, all drawn on great sheets of wrapping paper. There must have been 100 of them, all lined up. These must be the drawings for the contest. They were. Everybody stopped and whistled or murmured admiringly.
The very next day, when the results were to be announced, it was raining lightly, and Peggy and Maddie didn't wait for Wanda in the same place where they always wait for her. It was Oliver Street, which led to Boggins Height. They didn't wait that day because it was a very important day for them. Peggy asked whether Miss Mason would announce the result that day. Maddie told that probably she will be announcing and Peggy is going to win that contest. When they reached the class, they were astonished by seeing the number of drawings that were kept in the classroom. There were almost 100 of them. Everything lined up. They thought that these were the drawings for competition. Every student was very happy on that day.
As soon as the class had assembled, Miss Mason announced the winners.
Jack Buggles had won for the boys, and his design for an outboard motor was on exhibition in room 12 along with the sketches by all the other boys. As for girls, although just 1 or 2 sketches were submitted by most, one girl, and room 13 should be proud of her. This one girl actually drew 100 designs, all different and all beautiful. In the opinion of the judges, any one of the drawings is worthy of winning the prize. I'm very happy to say that Wanda Petronski is the winner of the girls' medal. Unfortunately, Wanda has been absent from school for some days and is not here to receive the applause that is due to her. Let us hope she'll be back tomorrow. Now, class, you may file around the room quietly and look at her exquisite drawings.
Look at parents that blue one she told us about. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, and here's the green one. Boy, and I thought I could draw.
Miss Mason announced the winners once everyone got settled. Amongst the boys, Jack Buggles had won. He had drawn an outward motor, and his drawing was kept in room number 12 along with all other boys' drawings. Then she talked about girls' submissions. She told about a girl who had submitted 100 designs. And she also told that the judges told that even one out of those drawings is worthy for winning that contest. And she proudly announced that Wanda Petronski was the winner of the competition. She also told very sadly that Wanda was absent for some days and she was not able to receive the applause given by them. Then she instructed everyone to go through all the drawings that were kept in the classes. Peggy and Maddie found the blue dress and the green dress that Wanda talked about earlier. They both admired all the drawings.
Now, comprehension check questions. Where in the classroom does Wanda sit? Wanda sat in the seat next to the last seat, in the last row in room number 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who didn't get good marks sat. Now, why? The reason why she sat there is not clear to anyone, because she was not like those boys who sat there. They have some guesses, like she sat there only because she came from Boggins Heights and her shoes were filled with mud. Now the next question. Where does Wanda live? What kind of a place do you think it is? Wanda lived at Boggins Heights. It seems that it was a place far away from the school and also where there was a lot of dry mud, thereby indicating that it was not a very rich locality. Now the next question. When and why do Peggy and Maddie notice Wanda's absence? Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absence on Wednesday, that is after 3 days. They noticed her absence because Wanda made them late for school. They had waited for her in order to make fun of her, but she didn't come that day. Okay? Now the next question. What do you think to have fun with her means? To have fun with her. In this contest, to have fun with her means that Peggy and Maddie would have made fun of Wanda and teased her for their own pleasure. Now the next question. In what way was Wanda different from other children? Wanda was different from other children. She didn't have any friends. She came to school and went back alone. And she always wore a faded blue colored dress which didn't fit her properly. And unlike other children, she didn't talk so much, to anyone. Next question. Did Wanda have 100 dresses? Why do you think she said she did? Actually, she didn't have 100 dresses because she always wore a faded blue color dress that shows that she was from a poor family. Probably it was a child's fantasy to possess 100 dresses. A child who had only one dress to wear for school. Then why do you think she said she did? The other children actually always made fun of her because of her poverty and laughed at her for whatever she might have told. Okay, so this would have been the reason for her exaggerating everything. Actually, she was talking about the designs made by her with different colors. Okay, now the next question. Why is Maddie embarrassed by the questions Peggy asked Wanda? Is she also like Wanda or is she different? Maddie was embarrassed by the questions Peggy asked Wanda because she was also poor herself. She usually wore old clothes which were handed down by someone else. She didn't feel sorry for Wanda. She was worried that perhaps later everyone would start teasing her too. She thought she was different from Wanda in the sense that she would never claim that she had 100 dresses. She was not so poor as Wanda also. Now the next part, first question. Why didn't Maddie ask Peggy to stop teasing Wanda? What did she afraid of? Maddie tried to tell Peggy to stop teasing Wanda by writing a note to her. She knew that she would never have the courage to speak to Peggy about this matter. And as she was writing that note, she just thought about the things that are going to happen. That is, she is actually making herself as a new target for Peggy and the girls. She thought that Peggy might ask her from where she got the dress, and she would have to say that it was of Peggy's old ones. So this was what she was afraid of. Okay. Consequently, she ended up in stop writing the notes. Next question. Who did Maddie think would win the drawing contest? Why? Maddie thought that her friend Peggy would win the drawing contest because she drew better than anyone else, and she could also copy the pictures from magazines as well as film stars' faces and all. Now the last question. Who won the drawing contest? What had the winner drawn? Wanda won the drawing contest, Wanda Petronski. She had drawn 100 dresses which were dazzling with colors and had brilliant and lavish designs. They were all drawn on sheets of paper, and they were all different from each other and all beautiful. New vocabularies rather than the meanings given in the textbook. Hitching, moving with a jerk. Shuddered, trembled. Trimmings, decorations. Blonde hair, pale yellow hair.
That's the end of the first part of the lesson 100 dresses. We will discuss the continuation of the story in another video. Thank you for watching.